Hey there. So, here are 2024's top 10 criminal tax cases. I thought you might enjoy knowing that these folks are now behind bars. First up, we have Robert Kowalski. This former attorney got sentenced to 25 years in federal prison in August 2024. Why? Well, he was involved in embezzlement and fraud that led to the collapse of Washington Federal Bank for Savings in Chicago. He also has to pay $7.2 million in restitution to the FDIC and $424,047 to the IRS. The bank went under in 2017 with at least $66 million in non-performing loans, most of which ended up with Kowalski and two real estate developers. When the bank tried to collect, Kowalski filed a fraudulent bankruptcy case to hide his assets, including fake tax returns. Talk about a mess. Next, we have Mark Scott, a former law firm partner who got 10 years in prison in January 2024. He laundered around $400 million from a OneCoin fraud scheme by setting up fake private equity funds and moving money through various bank accounts. He made over $50 million from his money laundering services and spent it on luxury items like watches, cars, and homes. Then there's José Luis Huizar, a former Los Angeles politician who got 13 years in federal prison in January 2024. He used his position to enrich himself and his associates through a pay-to-play scheme, taking nearly $2 million in bribes from real estate developers. He also evaded taxes and now has to pay $443,905 in restitution to the city of Los Angeles and $38,792 to the IRS. Jason Brown, a suburban Chicago man, was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison in October for trafficking fentanyl and attempting to support ISIS. He provided $500 to an undercover law enforcement officer posing as an ISIS soldier, and trafficked large amounts of drugs from California to Chicago. Abraham Yusuf led a sophisticated stolen identity tax refund scheme that defrauded the IRS of over $110 million. In September, he was sentenced to more than 14 years in federal prison. He recruited co-conspirators to provide addresses for receiving IRS correspondence, and used stolen CAF numbers to falsely represent himself as a legitimate representative. Amit Patel, a former Jacksonville Jaguars employee, got 6 years and 6 months in federal prison in March for embezzling over $22 million. He used his role to make hundreds of unauthorized purchases and transactions, hiding the scheme with false accounting entries. He spent the money on gambling, a condo, travel, vehicles, and digital assets. Roman Sterlingov, the operator of Bitcoin Fog, was sentenced to 12 years and 6 months in federal prison in November for money laundering. He ran the longest-running Bitcoin money laundering service on the darknet, processing transactions involving over 1.2 million Bitcoin, valued at around $400 million at the time. Certified public accountant Jack Fisher and attorney James Sinnott were sentenced to 25 and 23 years in prison, respectively, for promoting a billion-dollar tax shelter scheme. They sold over $1.3 billion in fraudulent tax deductions, leading to a tax loss of over $450 million to the IRS. Changpeng Zhao, the founder and former CEO of Binance, was sentenced to 4 months in prison in June for failing to maintain an effective money laundering program. Binance Holdings Limited agreed to pay a $4.3 billion financial penalty to resolve a criminal investigation. Finally, Janet Yamanka Mello, a former Army civilian employee, was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison in July for a $100 million fraud scheme. She stole nearly $109 million from youth programs and failed to pay over $32 million in taxes, spending the money on lavish items like clothing, jewelry, vehicles, and real estate. And there you have it, 2024's greatest tax cheat hits.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.